I didn't ask to be born. It wasn't my decision to come into this world. It was yours. You. My parents. You wanted a child. And now that I've grown up, you act like you did me a favor. Like I should be eternally grateful just because you fulfilled your own desire. You raised me, fed me, paid for my college, and now you throw it in my face every time I dare to have an opinion. We did everything for you. You should be grateful. We pay. You obey. But I'm not a possession, not an investment. I'm a person, and I don't owe you my freedom just because you chose to become parents. But from the very beginning, you didn't want to just be parents. You wanted to be owners, to control. Everything you gave me came with an invisible label. Now you owe us. My parents paid for my education, and with that, they didn't buy my degree. They bought me, my will, my silence, my obedience. My mom used to say, "You should be grateful. We gave you everything." And I would sit in my dorm room eating instant noodles because everything didn't include food, just tuition and housing. Everything else? Figure it out yourself. Ever since I was a child, I knew what I wanted. I started writing when I was 8. It began with short stories and grid-lined notebooks, then turned into blog posts, fan fiction, essays, poetry. I dreamed of becoming a real author. The kind whose books sit on shelves at Barnes & Noble, whose name is printed on soft covers with a New York Times bestseller sticker. I had a plan. I knew exactly which program I wanted to apply to. By 10th grade, I had already picked a major in literature and creative writing. I was collecting reviews, studying storytelling, working on my craft. It felt like I had found my calling. But when it was time to submit my college application, my dad said, "You're not going to feed yourself with poetry. Writers are broke. If you expect us to pay for that dream, forget it. I'm not wasting money on nonsense." I tried to fight back, told him it mattered to me, that I was ready to work hard, that I had talent. He just smirked and said, "Talent isn't a job. You'll study finance. Period. If you don't like it, go find someone else to pay for your little art." It wasn't a conversation. It was an ultimatum. He literally said, "If you want to live on our dime, you follow our rules." He even decided which books I was allowed to read. He used to say women had no logic. He called my dream a little emotional episode. That's when I understood. My dreams meant nothing compared to his ambitions. He didn't want me to have a life. He wanted a project, an investment portfolio. He used to say, "We put money into you. Now it's time for the return." I didn't choose finance. I chose survival. Because the alternative was no home, no support, no chance at school at all. He knew how to apply pressure. And he did it masterfully. This isn't a story about poverty. This is a story about financial control, emotional abuse from parents, and how money can be used as a weapon of manipulation. My parents are the textbook definition of what Reddit now calls toxic parents. From the outside, they looked respectable. Good jobs, a nice house. But inside that house, there was cold control, constant comparison, and emotional neglect. As a kid, I used to dream of my dad looking at me the way movie dads look at their daughters, with pride, with warmth. Just because I was his little girl. Not because I achieved something. Not because I earned it. But in our house, love always had to be earned. Straight A's, certificates, academic competitions, perfect behavior. He never asked how I felt. He only cared about results, grades, progress. When I brought home an A, he would nod like it was expected. If it was a B+, he'd frown and say, "You can do better." There was no "I'm proud of you," no "good job." Everything was measured by performance. To him, I wasn't a person. I was a project. An investment that needed to be optimized and tracked like a portfolio. I just wanted him to love me. Not for my achievements. Not for how easy I made his life. Not for how perfectly I played the role of a good daughter. But simply for being me. That kind of love. He never gave me. My mom was controlling in a different way. She knew everything. Who I texted, when I got my period, how much I spent on coffee. We had a shared bank card. She could see every single transaction, and if I bought something she didn't approve of, the calls would start. You really spent $45 on a dress? Why would you even need that if you're always alone anyway? It was emotional abuse, dressed up as concern. I heard the phrase, "we pay for your life," so many times, I started to believe I didn't have a right to my own. I felt ashamed for having desires. I was scared to argue, because they didn't just pay. They threatened to stop paying every time I showed even a glimpse of independence. I remember one summer I said I wanted to take an internship in another city. It was my dream. A small literary publishing house in Vancouver. My mom laughed. "You want to waste your time on that crap instead of getting a job at a bank? What? Did we raise you for nothing?" My dad got up without a word, left the room, came back with his laptop and said, "If you go, we stop paying for your education." Just like that. Cold, like flipping a switch. Their way, or nothing at all. I didn't feel like a daughter. I felt like an investment. They had spent money, and now they demanded returns, control, reports, obedience. Their love always had conditions. After that, I learned to pretend, to hide my emotions, to smile when I wanted to cry, to agree, just to survive. This wasn't just a toxic family dynamic. It was psychological slavery. They gave me an education, yes, but they used it like a leash. And I didn't realize right away how deeply the psychological damage of parental control could shape a person's entire identity. I didn't know how to make choices. I didn't know who I was. All I kept asking myself was, is this normal? What would they think? The turning point came in my 4th year, and it started with one person. His name was Liam. He was a theater major, worked part-time at a bookstore, wore old sweaters, and wrote plays that no one read but him. He was the complete opposite of my father. My father, cold, rational, always focused on outcomes. Liam, warm, gentle, attentive. He asked questions not about grades, but about feelings. He didn't try to fix me, didn't judge me. He just looked and saw. And one day, he said something I'll never forget. "You don't have to be convenient to be worthy of love." I almost cried right then, because no one had ever said that to me before. When I told him I dreamed of being a writer since I was a kid, he didn't laugh like my father did. He didn't ask, "And how are you going to make money off that?" He said, "You already are a writer. You just haven't let yourself admit it out loud yet." He was the first person to read my stories, and the first to say, "This is powerful. You have a voice. Keep writing." His support was never loud or dramatic, just steady, quiet, real. When I talked about myself, he listened. When I was afraid, he stayed. When I doubted, he reminded me, "You're not alone." I told my mom for the first time that I was seeing someone. She asked, "Does he have a job?" I said he was still in school. Her reply was instant. "So you're going to support him now?" Great. That's not why we raised you. That was the beginning of a new wave of pressure. They called him a parasite, said he was distracting me from my career. They threatened to cut off funding unless I broke up with him. At some point, they started calling Liam directly. My mom told him he was ruining my life. My dad sent an email, full of threats and insults. That's when I knew they would never stop, and I broke. For the first time in my life, I packed my things and then moved in with him, with an empty bank account, with a mountain of fear. I worked nights at a coffee shop, wrote copy for websites, picked up side gigs. But for the first time, I felt like I was living my own life. They didn't call me for 3 months. Then my dad sent a letter, with a checkbook and a note. "If you come to your senses, you know where to find us." I burned it. Then came the accusations. "You betrayed us. You're ungrateful. You would have achieved nothing without us. They said I destroyed the family, that they were fighting because of me, that I was to blame for all their problems. Gaslighting in a family is a quiet kind of torture. You start to question if things really were that bad. You wonder, what if they're right? What if I really am the monster? But then I remembered all the things I hid from them, just to protect myself. How I'd throw away pharmacy receipts so they wouldn't see I bought vitamins or anxiety meds. Because my mom would say, "Why do you need that? Making up problems again?" How I wiped away tears before video calls, putting on a smile when I could barely stand. How I was afraid to say that I was scared, or hurting, or having panic attacks. Because in our family, no one believed in feelings you couldn't touch. They didn't believe I had depression. They didn't believe I had the right to be weak. They didn't listen. They controlled. 3 years have passed. I finished college. On my own. Without their help. I work as a copywriter now. I write stories like this one. About a cold and distant father. About a mother who used me as her personal therapist. About parents who manipulated their daughter, shamed her, and controlled her with money. Stories I never dared to speak out loud before. I have a portfolio I built from scratch. Clients who come back. And books of my own. Not bestsellers, yet, but written with honesty. I don't need my parents to be proud of me. What matters is, I'm proud of myself. I didn't seek revenge. I just survived. And that turned out to be enough. They still message me. Sometimes they call. You'll see we were right all along. But I'm not afraid anymore. Because now I know. Freedom is expensive. But it's worth every cent.